Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on where it is. It's late afternoon here, and the sun is shining in through this window, which is beautiful, about 7 o'clock. It's Catania Alvin, and we're the Monday, 19th of August, 2019. And here, for those of you who know British politics, this is Boris Johnson, looking extremely well trimmed round the hairline. So I think he's been tidying himself up recently. This is very exciting because here we have the first People's PMQs, Prime Minister's Question Time, right from 10 Downing Street at his desk. So that's the first time. So I'm going to play some of this and just a particular point, because the focus of this video is about Brexit. Okay, we've actually left. We left on the 29th of March at 11 p.m. And there's a court case going through. Robin Tilbrook is the one that started that. And so we've actually got to a very exciting point where things could suddenly take a turn, and we're out very quickly. So here is, first of all, Boris Johnson. And this was on, I think, the 14th of August. That's the first ever direct transmission to the public.
And Sam Dearden from Newport, South Wales, asks, what lengths am I going to go to prevent Parliament from blocking Brexit? And would this include scheduling an election after 31st of October? Well, Sam, I think the British public have had a lot of elections and electoral events. They had the election in 2015, they had the referendum in 2016, they had another election in 2017. I think what they want us to do is get on and deliver Brexit on October the 31st, and I never tire of telling you that is what we are going to do. And Amy in Weaverham says, what will you do to restore the British people's faith in politics and politicians after the last 3 years of division, chaos and broken promises? And I think that, Amy, that's really I give you the same kind of answer, in fact exactly the same answer. Amy, we're coming out of the European Union on October the 31st. I think that's what the British people voted for, and they feel very frustrated that 3 years after they gave that instruction, and after the British Parliament promised again and again to people that we would do it, that they feel very annoyed and frustrated that we haven't. So that's the first thing we're going to do. And Shao says more and more people in rural communities are feeling isolated from the politics of London and Westminster. What efforts will you take to ensure your government represents and hears the voices of all British people across the country? And I think that is a great point, Shao, because one of the things I want to do, even before we've delivered Brexit, is to do far more to unite our country and bring it together. And I do think that Brexit was at least partly about people in towns and regions of the UK feeling that they weren't being heard. And we want to do a lot more to revive local democracy with a programme of devolution, devolving powers to towns and communities around the UK, but also levelling up across the UK. I believe that talent and genius is uniformly distributed across the UK, but opportunity is unfairly distributed. And the three things you need to do to bring the country together are improve education, invest in our schools, invest in further education in skills, invest in infrastructure, transport infrastructure, and invest in technology. And I would single out what we need to do with rural communities in particular. We need to be investing in full fibre broadband. And I'm told, and I'm going to go to Oliver, who's my favourite political hero, inspired during my time in politics. Oliver, I would obviously Winston Churchill's one, but I would mention Pericles of Athens, who believed in all sorts of wonderful things. He certainly believed in great infrastructure projects. He believed in the importance of the many, not the few. But above all, Pericles will go down as one of the most powerful articulators of the idea of democracy, which is that the people are ultimately in charge of their own destiny. And it's because the people took that decision to leave the European Union that we're going to come out on October the 31st, whatever happens. Anyway, I think that's all I've got time for today for this edition of People's PMQs. Thank you all very much for tuning in.
Now, this is Jeff Taylor, very good, very clear-spoken, very concise, knows what he's talking about. Title of this is Another QC says the UK left the EU on the 29th of March 2019. Well, why am I going into this in August 19th? And that is because a court case that Robin Tilbrook has set up and did Daddy Dragon on his website is doing a great deal of work towards funding that and explaining to people about that whole situation. He's interviewed Robin Tilbrook for people to watch, etc. Very interesting. So actually this extension and the coming out on the 31st of October is sort of a nonsense because we're already out. But this game has to be played, it seems, because there are so many people who are, they're called moaning Remainers. Anyway, this court case is going forward, and Jeff Taylor is talking about that another QC.
On the Lawyers for Britain website, Stanley Brodie QC writes that the UK left the EU on the 29th of March 2019 by default, as there was no valid or lawful impediment to prevent it. Stanley Brodie is the most senior QC with Blackstone Chambers. He has an MA from Balliol College, Oxford, was appointed Queen's Counsel in 1975 and has worked in commercial and finance law, media and entertainment, public law and in domestic and international arbitration. So he knows a thing or two. And as far as he is concerned, the UK left the EU at 11 p.m. on the 29th of March 2019. In his article, to which I've left a link in the descriptions box below, he says that Theresa May's initial request for an Article 50 extension was legally valid. But the EU had turned that down and made a counter-offer, which the author says was not legally effective as it did not properly comply with the terms of Article 50. He says, whichever way one looks at it, the agreement was either unlawful or made for an unlawful purpose or ultra vires. That means that the UK left the EU on the 29th of March 2019 by default, as there was no valid or lawful impediment to prevent it. And he points to the specific wording of the extension part of paragraph 3 of Article 50, which says, the treatise shall cease to apply to the state in question from the date of entry into force of the withdrawal agreement or, failing that, 2 years after the notification referred to in paragraph 2, unless the European Council, in agreement with the member state concerned, unanimously decides to extend this period. And his stress is on the final two words, this period, which he says refers specifically to the 2-year period. The proviso, he says, could not be used to reopen or continue never-ending debate, nor can it be used as a general power to extend time. In the view of Stanley Brodie QC, that makes it a one-time only clause, no second or third extensions. He then brings into question the legality of the first extension to Article 50. And on the decision for that first extension, in his opinion, it was unlawful and ultra vires because they did not actually agree a new date, because what it offered was a choice of 2 dates. In his view, it was not effective in replacing the original exit date. And he also points to a briefing note issued by the government which says, the Article 50 period is set at 2 years unless, as provided for in Article 50, the European Council, in agreement with the member state concerned, unanimously decides to extend it. Note that the word it in the quotation from the Article 50 text replaces the original two words this period. Why on earth would they feel the need to shorten the proper legal text from this period to it, unless it was to hide the true wording and meaning? And on this the author says, so the version put out by the civil servants was false. The differences in meaning between the two versions were considerable. And he goes on later to say, so the civil servants responsible for briefing Parliament to enable an informed debate to take place themselves were misleading it. The alteration of the text of Article 50 and of the proviso to paragraph 3 must have been deliberate. And he added, this is a truly alarming state of affairs. It should be exposed sooner rather than later.
I'll put the YouTube in the description box. Please give some very good information. Now, where we've got to now, that was published 3rd of June. Okay, we're now 2 months, over 2 months, 2.5 months on from that. This is also a Jeff Taylor, and this one actually was published on August the 15th. It's from a tweet that Daddy Dragon put out, and Jeff Taylor has picked up on it, and I came across this yesterday.
Hello there and good evening. Just a short audio-only update to say, hold on to your hats, guys. We might be on the verge of an early, full-blown Brexit. I've just caught a tweet from Daddy Dragon, and I'll quote it here direct. Wow, it is being suggested by a senior Tory that Boris Johnson at 10 Downing Street is preparing to give a consent order to the High Court in relation to the Robin Tilbrook case for leave. Evidently, he can do this under the Crown prerogative, as he is named as first respondent. Now, if you remember, after the first Article 50 extension, the chairman of the English Democrats, Robin Tilbrook, lodged a judicial review case with the Administrative Court, arguing that the extension itself was unlawful. And Theresa May's government lodged a defence to protect her decision. What this news amounts to is Boris Johnson pulling that government defence to the case Robin Tilbrook put into the courts in April this year.
That's very interesting, because Boris Johnson has pulled back the defence that was set up by Theresa May.
This would mean that the government would be accepting that the first Article 50 extension was unlawfully obtained, so that agreement to extend Article 50 beyond the 29th of March was null and void in domestic and international law. The upshot would be, if this is true, that the UK left the EU on WTO terms, that is, no-deal Brexit, on the 29th of March this year. This would, as I understand it, become effective immediately Boris signed the relevant document and it was received by the court. Now, I assume that there will be an instant court case launched by someone like Gina Miller to try and prove that Boris Johnson acted unlawfully himself by pulling the government defence to this case, but I doubt it would get very far.
I'm going to leave it there. Do go on to Jeff Taylor. You've got the nub of that information. This is very exciting because truth is coming out and truth is being adhered to. Boris is clearly, just by stopping the government defence that Theresa May set in motion, that's very exciting. I think that Boris Johnson is proving himself that he can stand his ground, and there's been a lot of anger towards him and against him. Very interesting. And the final very interesting remark, and I will video it, another video of Daddy Dragon talking about the Fabian Society. Now, you've heard me talk about the Committee 300, which was set up in 1893, but the Fabian Society was set up in 1884, and the Fabian Society is Karl Marx, and not just socialism, but communism. And how many people in government actually are Fabian Society members. So it's not surprising. God bless everyone. Please share this to as many people and have a wonderful day. Do look in the description box. You'll see some very exciting things along with the links of these 3 videos. You'll also see the metamorphosis. Go on to that. I'm going to do a video more in line with that. And also my website called Transform Your Life from Stress to Joy, Health and Abundance. And that is a process that you can do alone and clear some of these negative thought forms. God bless. Stay well. Katanya Alvin signing out. Bye-bye.